Hello, this is Rian Johnson, and welcome to the DVD commentary track for Brick. Brick kind of started for me with the novels of Dashiell Hammett. That was the starting point for this whole weird thing. And I came to that through a film called Miller's Crossing. When I was in film school, the Coen brothers film Miller's Crossing was one of my favorite movies. I practically had it memorized. I loved that film. And I read an interview with the Coens where they mentioned Hammett as a big influence. So then I picked up the Hammett, and I didn't put it down for the next several months. I just kind of became obsessed with his books, and he wrote, The Maltese Falcon and Red Harvest, and was one of the originators of kind of the whole hard-boiled detective genre. And, I had been a fan of film noir my whole life, but reading those books, it was kind of like going back to the source material and getting a pure dose of where it all came from. And there was something really unexpected about it that really kind of punched me between the eyes. Also Chandler and Kane I kind of read and discovered, but specifically Hammett, there was something about the worlds that he created that really stoked my imagination and made me want to make an American detective movie. That was kind of the starting point for this whole thing, was just to do a straight-up American detective movie. And then, of course, as we see the locker cage here, obviously the kind of bizarre thing of putting it in high school. And that, for me, initially at least, just came from wanting to give it a different set of visual cues. Once I decided to do this detective movie, film noir, which I love so much, and, some of my favorite movies like The Maltese Falcon, like Huston's version of The Maltese Falcon, and Chinatown, and, some of my favorite stuff is noir. But, because of that, I think at this point in our culture, everyone is so familiar with noir, and everyone's so familiar specifically with the visual cues of it. You see guys in hats, you see shadowy alleyways, you see dames, and cigarettes, and you see that period, and you automatically know what it is. You know it's noir, and I think in a way, it's very easy to kind of turn a big piece of your brain off once you see it and can file it away. And I think that's maybe why a lot of the time you see it today, it's done in the context of parody. You see it in Saturday Night Live skits, or you hear it on Guy Noir, on Prairie Home Companion or something. It's something that's done jokingly just because it's such a familiar thing. So initially, the idea of putting it in high school was for me just to give it a different set of visual cues.
I can't.
I think when people see the movie, sometimes they're expecting it to be much more of a deconstruction of one genre or the other, or to to be meta or something, or be doing it to deconstruct one genre or the other. And it wasn't. It was really just to put it in a different setting where you couldn't lean on your preconceptions of what detective movies were, so that we could take a much more straightforward approach to the genre and just kind of make ourselves a ripping detective yarn. So I wrote the script back in 1997. It was right out of film school. I graduated from film school in 96, and wrote this script and knew I wanted to make it, but I had no connections in the industry. I had no family in the industry. I wasn't particularly good at getting out there and playing the Hollywood game and talking to people. It was not my strong suit. So I didn't exactly have all the elements to go out there and take the town by storm with this script. So my approach to it was basically just to try and get the script to anyone who would read it.
Brendan, it's been a while.
My cinematographer, Steve Yedlin, who, one of my best friends, I met him in college, like freshman year, and he had the advantage of, in those first few years out of school, he was working on film sets. He was working in the lighting department and the electric department on low-budget films. And so what he would do, he would take a couple of copies of the script with him to work, and if there was a cool producer on the set, he would slip him the script. And just by kind of doing that and by slowly getting the script to people, even if we got it to someone and there was no immediate direct line as to how they could get it made, it didn't matter, because our philosophy was just, well, maybe they read it and maybe they like it and show it to someone who can. And that's kind of eventually what happened. The script kind of got out there just through being passed around to people. And it was a long, long process in terms of it actually coming together. It took a total of 6, nearly 7 years. It wasn't until 2003 that we actually shot it. And during that time, I had a bunch of day jobs and just managed to kind of keep myself fed while we kept trying to get this movie made, and there were, like any other indie movie at this low budget level, there were lots of instances where it almost came together and then fell apart. And you think you're going to be shooting in 3 months with a budget of $3 million, and then something happens, an actor pulls out, and you wake up the next morning and you're back at square one. But at the same time, I think the thing that really helped is I had a group of friends. I had Steve, I had a group of people who really loved and believed in the script, and so that's kind of what makes it easier to pick yourself up and dust yourself off and kind of keep walking towards this goal.
Hello, Kara.
Initially, we tried to get money for it through kind of traditional routes. We went into like production companies and we got meetings at different places that have access to funding.
Lapdog.
The problem that we hit there was that, the script was so was so freaking weird. As strange as the movie is, the script was something that it was difficult for a lot of people to kind of figure out what it was going to be. And even those who did, even those who really, it was their kind of thing and they really liked it, could see that it was very execution reliant. If it was done even slightly wrong with the wrong tone, it could have just been a train wreck. It could have been absolutely dreadful. Because I was a first-time unproven director, that combination of those two things, very understandably, made it, even fans of the script were not that eager to put their jobs on the line and go to their bosses and say, we got to open up the checkbooks for this one. So basically, after years and years of trying, after about 6 years of this, we kind of just got fed up, and we had, by that time, accumulated a lot of talented people. We had found a great casting director, this woman, Shannon McCanyon, who had worked on the movie for like 2 years before we got the funding for it. I had found a couple of great producers, Mark Mathis and Ron Bergman, who really believed in it, who I felt I could totally trust, and who knew how to get the movie made for a low budget. I met with a bunch of great actors at that point. So basically we just kind of said, all right, enough is enough. We figured out the lowest amount that we could make the movie for on 35 millimeter, which ended up being just under $500,000. We went to friends and family. We passed the hat. We did it old school, blood simple style. We just kind of scraped the money together. And that's the way we made the movie, which at the end of the day turned out to be perfect. It turned out to be the perfect way to do it. We were able to just go off with no grown-ups looking over our shoulder, with absolutely no restrictions in terms of making the movie more sellable or more mainstream or what have you. We could just go and make exactly the movie that we wanted. And especially because the tone of the film was so delicate, and because it's something that we kind of had to all have our eyes on exactly what we were trying to pull off here. For me, especially as a first-time director, that was part of what made the experience so good, was that it was a group of friends able to get together with very few outside considerations and just make the movie. We shot the film down in San Clemente, California, which is this beautiful little beach town on the southern tip of Orange County. It's like exactly halfway between Los Angeles and San Diego. And it's where I went to high school, actually. We shot it at my high school, which was a very, very cool, cathartic experience, which I highly recommend if anyone gets the chance to do. Go back to your high school and make a movie. It was a lot of fun. It was also cool just because, even though it was a bit of a stretch for us budget-wise to shoot there, because it's out of kind of the circle that they draw on the big map of LA, where if you shoot inside that circle, everyone can go home. If you shoot outside of it, you have to put them up. It was a location shoot. We had to put everybody up, and for our budget, that was a strain, but it was really, really worth it for a couple of reasons. Practically, the fact that I knew the town, the fact that this was my hometown, I knew when we got kicked out of locations, and we inevitably did, I knew we could just go around the corner and shoot over here, The people at the high school were so incredibly patient and giving, and just so phenomenally generous. I think, I'm not sure if we would have gotten that if I hadn't gone to school there and had that history there,
Oh, yeah?
So it ended up being a great thing. And also just with any location shoot, the fact that we were all down there making this movie together, and we were all kind of under these kind of guerrilla filmmaking circumstances, and we didn't have a lot of money, and we all had to kind of band together. It kind of created a really amazing family-like atmosphere with the cast and crew. And we were lucky in that we didn't have any jerks at all, like, on the movie. Like, it was very strange. Like, the entire crew and the cast got along, and it kind of, it felt like summer camp.
That's not the kind of guy
It felt like an 80s summer camp movie. There you go. Perfect.
Fearless flyer. Quit your yapping and fix me one. I'll never get through all this.
This lovely lady here on screen is Miss Nora Zehetner, and we're doing this commentary track kind of talk show style, as opposed to tossing everyone in a room and kind of all throwing stuff at each other. We're gonna have guests. And our first guest today on the Brick commentary track is Nora Zehetner. Hello, Nora.
Hello.
So I first saw you in May.
In
my
May.
my friend Lucky's movie, who I
That
went to
you
school
edited.
with. Yes, I was one of the editors on, and you took a knife in the throat, like in the throat.
It wasn't a knife. It was something even worse.
Was it like
it was like an ice pick.
Oh, you took an ice pick in the throat? I gotta change my story.
And I was like wired up with this thing that's exploded gooey blood all over me when it happened.
Yeah, and
Am I? Sorry.
yeah, you have to talk.
Sorry.
No, but and very brief scene, but you took a horrid thing in the throat so well that
So that's why you had to hire me.
exactly. I
for
said
a
I
while.
need that girl in the movie.
I
So
didn't even have to die this time. Great.
so let's talk about like the language in the movie, because that's one thing that when I do like Q&As, people always ask in terms of the performances, because it's definitely a type of performance style that's really different from the stuff you usually the stuff you see in modern film, the stuff you usually have to do.
The incomprehensible language that we made up.
Yes, exactly. Let's talk about the incomprehensible language.
I looked it up.
Oh, did you?
Yeah,
Nice.
pretty
That's a good
funny.
one. Yeah.
Sorry. I don't know. I mean, when I read the script, it's just kind of like, you go, this is amazing, but what is this? And then I just remember when I actually went in to read for you, it was so much fun to get into. Like, once you get into it, it's just like, I mean, it's just like a song. It's the only way that I always describe it. It's so lyrical and fun.
That's what like kind of when we had like a really luxurious rehearsal time on this. We had like 3 months of rehearsal, and that was part of the cool thing. Is like at first there was always that adjustment period where we were figuring out how to attack this stuff. But once we got into the rhythm of it and got it, I just remember it being like, it just being a blast, just being so much fun to roll, and I felt like you guys were having fun with it, and that.
No, I always,
energized it for me.
I had so much fun with it. I mean, sometimes you have things and you're like, oh, enough of this scene, or
Yeah.
But it was constantly fun, because it was, every time it felt like something a little bit new, and you were so wonderful about actually listening to my ideas or opinions or of everybody. That
You can't say I'm actually slipping $100 bill into her pocket at this point. Yeah.
No, but I remember one time when you thought we should be standing up for some scene. It was that scene that just passed where
Yeah.
we first meet and talk, and I said, I really think we need to be sitting. Remember?
That's right.
And then you said, okay, let's try it sitting, and you're like, oh wow, I like it that way.
I'm generous like that.
Yeah. See how I just took credit for that scene? See how I just stole it away from you? You thought
That's
I was
right.
going there with, all these compliments.
All those compliments, and you cut me off. You
Yeah.
have the knife in the throat, the bad knife in the throat. And then we actually got down there and started shooting. It was cool also, because I know for like Joe and me, it kind of felt, I said we're kind of doing the commentary talk show style. That's in a way that's the way the schedule of the film was, because the movie is very much
Bring in
Joe,
and then you
Brendan.
bring in a guest. And
Yeah. It was kind of like, who's our guest star this week? And
Yeah.
we had all our scenes with Nora, and then we had,
Mine were actually a bit more sporadic than I think a lot of other people's.
Yeah. You were kind of there for more of it, which was,
I think I just was more spaced out for some reason.
Yeah, for some reason.
You guys wanted to keep me around. I know that.
Because you're pretty.
No. I know, I was always the only girl there.
Yeah, that's true.
I
Yeah,
never overlapped. I think I overlapped like a day with Emily.
That's right. Yeah, yeah.
And I had fun hanging out with her. But
Yeah.
to this day, I don't think I've exchanged more than 2 words with Megan.
Oh, you must. She's awesome. Trust me. You're gonna have to trust me on this one. She's
I
a
believe
wonderful
you.
person.
But yeah.
Yeah, none of the girls got to act together in this.
Like I had a couple of scenes with Tug and Penn, but not.
They're not girls, though. That's
Yeah,
the thing
no, I
about
know.
it,
I'm
yeah.
saying that but I was gonna say even those are not real,
Yeah.
meaty scenes.
Yeah,
They're just
yeah, yeah.
it's just where we overlap a little bit.
Right. Yeah.
So no, they are not girls. Don't think anybody can confuse Noah Flies for a girl.
Can mistake it.
Maybe
yeah.
Noah Segan, but not Noah.
Oh!
No, I didn't mean that way. I mean he's kind of feminine features. Sorry.
You're digging a hole.
Oh, I'm not. I meant that as a compliment.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh God, I'm in trouble now.
Yeah, you totally busted.
They're not gonna use any of this. It's fine.
We're gonna cut around this. Yeah, absolutely. I was talking about how there's a real summer camp type feel when we were down there shooting.
It was.
Yeah,
it was.
like-
It was kind of embarrassing. It was like a hippie camp.
It
Like,
totally
we
was
were,
like
we
a
were
commune. Yeah, we were like
we
flower
came back
children.
from set, and everybody had their guitars, and I
Yeah,
even went out
bottles
and
of
bought a
wine.
guitar because
Yeah.
I really wanted to learn.
Yeah.
Which you now have in your possession since I broke your guitar.
You
I
broke
took
my
you
guitar
mine.
'cause you're
You
so
actually
rock and
took
roll.
it. You're like, yeah, give me. When can I pick up your guitar?
Well, you broke my guitar, man. You that sounds really.
You should have had it sitting in the middle of the floor.
Yeah, I shouldn't have had it sitting there where you could knock it over and break it. That sounds really rock and roll, but she really just tripped over my guitar and broke it. So this is not scene-specific commentary, by the way. This is, yeah.
No, and but anyways, yeah, we would all just go back and people would sing and play guitar and drink.
It does. It sounds like we're describing the 60s. Like, it sounds where a burned out hippie kind of like, it was a different time, man. We didn't have any of this bullshit. It was just, just
Free
grooving.
love.
Yeah,
And then there was that
totally.
one night that I wasn't there for at the end. That was
Yeah.
the
yeah.
bad night. That was the free love part of the.
I have no idea what she's
Yeah,
talking about, by
I'm
the
sure.
way. Yeah. Yes. So, and then, yeah.
Yes.
And then Sundance, I guess, was kind of the tail end of the thing.
I was sick for all of Sundance and
Yeah.
cranky, so
Yeah. You were sick and cranky, which is, you're usually not sick. So
I'm
it's-
just cranky.
You usually is cranky.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there you go. Ladies, I'd like to thank you for coming by, and the movie
Am I
is...
kicked out
and
already? Is it
the-
because I said nothing that actually pertained to the film at all?
The movie is Brick. It's out on DVD right now, and if you, yeah.
Bye. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, got more to say? You want to talk more about the hippie commune, or?
I don't know. I just don't feel very loved right now.
I love you.
Okay. All right.
Ladies and gentlemen, a big hand for Miss Nora Zahedner. There we go, yes.
Brendan, I know that you're mad at all these people because you think I went away from you and went to them, but you gotta start seeing it as my decision. Stop getting angry just because where I want to be at is different from where you want to be at.
You fed you that line, huh?
Stop picking on Dode, okay? He's a good guy.
Pie house rat?
He's a good friend.
So what am I?
Yeah, I mean, what are you? Just eating back here, hating everybody? I mean, were you judging anyone? God, I really loved
The very first, when I sat down with Joe and we had kind of our first conversation about the movie, one of the first things that we talked about was kind of what we didn't want it to be and the way we could fall off this kind of weird tight wire of a premise and, kind of what we were going to do to try and keep our heads straight so that we created a world that felt real and drew you in and didn't, hopefully didn't just feel like some kind of, silly little gimmick. And for us, I mean, what we kind of came up with and what I felt was really important in a way was just to, that obviously this is a genre that has a lot of history and it's got, a ton of amazing films that have been made in the genre of noir and for me, it was really important to create an environment for the actors, but also for every part of the creative team, for the for cinematographer, for the designers, for everyone, to create an environment where we could completely avert our eyes from that. We wanted to feel like we were John Huston back in the day, and this script had been dropped in our laps. And what are the creative choices that we would make to bring what's on the page to life in a very real way? We wanted to just stay incredibly honest and never wink, even in the instances where, there's a couple scenes in the movie where, for instance, the scene with the Pin's mom or the scene with the vice principal, where the two worlds of high school and detective fiction kind of glance against each other, and there's humor there, which is great, which is terrific, and that's very intentional. At the same time, it was very important that in our mindsets when we were making it, we never winked. Even when the situations got to the point where you saw a bit of the absurdity of it, that's especially the times when it was important that, that we were just completely honestly creating a real world and creating real people. It was important to me that Nora, when she was playing the part, wasn't approaching it as, okay, I'm playing a femme fatale. How does this fit in with the history of women who have played femme fatales? How is this set into context? That she was just looking at the character on the page and figuring out, okay, how am I going to play this person? Who is this person? And creating her own version of that. It's been kind of an interesting thing, actually, showing the film to audiences. I think that initially coming into it, I had guessed that it would maybe play better to older audiences just because they were more familiar with the traditions of the detective genre, more familiar with film noir. And one of the refreshing things is that age seems to have very little to do with people's reactions to the movies. There are people who love it, there's people who hate it, and there's people like that across the entire age range. If anything, though, one of the really cool things has been at screenings has been seeing the reaction of young people to the movie and how in many ways they're almost more willing to get enthused about it and to totally dig it, just because maybe because they are less familiar with the traditions of it, they're more willing to take the world on its own terms, which gets me really excited because that's exactly the goal that we had in resetting it in high school, was to, put it in a place where you could just come at this stuff on its own terms, as opposed to just having it feel like a hollow echo of older, better films. So, yeah. I want to say a quick thing about the trash bag thing that just happened, because that's like a cool little visual thing that people always kind of ask about. And basically there were several abstract transitions in the movie where he goes in and out of consciousness, or right there where he has like that vision. And I knew since we had no money, we weren't going to be able to do anything fancy in post, so I wanted to come up with some sort of surreal practical thing that we could do, which is kind of dangerous because, if you shoot something and it looks goofy, you kind of have no backup. But luckily it seems like it's been really effective. And so I came up with this trash bag thing, which just kind of, in my mind, all tied together, because at the end of the movie she's wrapped in the black plastic and the brick is in the black plastic, and it was just kind of a cool visual thing. And the way that we did that shot with the tunnel is we shot that entire shot backwards. And so we started with this long thing of black plastic pulled up over the camera, and then we had our prop assistant Momo in the tunnel, like covered in the plastic so you couldn't see her. We gave the cue and she started running and pulled it off down into the water and into the tunnel. And meanwhile, Emily's walking backwards. That's why her walk looks kind of funky and David Lynchy, sort of. So, and then we did a match cut from that, going backwards and coming up over the camera to Joe in bed, and we pulled the black plastic off him. So low rent effects you can do at your own home and make your own film for 39 cents. I would love to introduce Miss Jody Tillin, who was the production designer on Brick and is one of the loveliest people in the world. And
I paid him to say that.
I made that joke already with Nora, actually. And that's the last compliment that will happen in this commentary. No more compliments.
There you go.
And so, hello, Jody.
Hi, darling.
So I remember the very first conversation that we had about the movie. I remember that meeting and just kind of feeling like I had found a kindred spirit when we started talking. And one of the things we talked about, I remember, was for a couple of reasons. First of all, because we weren't going to have much money, but also because, we were shooting at this high school that I obviously had really vivid memories of and that I knew very well, and I had based a lot of the locations around specific stuff. How, to a large degree, we'll talk about the big set pieces that you built in a second, but a lot of the movie was doing dressing and figuring out how to kind of amplify the impact of these existing locations.
The whole look of the film was, sort of triggered on what the school looked like. When we went down there, I got exactly what you meant, because so much happened there, and to connect that to the other locations was sort of the task of the job. So it was very insightful just to see it, and it was really funny because when we talked in the room in the first interview, I had so much information from you, but seeing it just elevated to another place.
And there were a couple instances, like the tunnel. I remember down by the tunnel. Mm-hmm. Like one of the things was I had, for some reason, my memory of that place was very kind of much more generic. We got down there and there was all this graffiti all over the walls, and so your amazing crew of people did something which is pretty.
They put on rubber boots.
Yeah.
And slung dirt. That's what they did. They dirted up the walls. And then, do you remember it rained or something?
Yeah, it rained the night before. They had to do it again. They had to paint the walls with mud to cover up the graffiti, which I
can't
thought
have
was beautiful.
any free advertising for whatever the gangs were.
We can't have free advertising for the marijuana leaf, I think.
This
is the
is
main
true.
thing that was advertised on those walls, I think.
This is true.
Because that would be product placement, and we would, if you're not getting paid for it, forget it.
That's what it was.
Yeah, exactly.
That was quite a task. And if you will remember that tunnel, the government kept on telling us, we can't guarantee your safety because this is a runoff tunnel. And at any moment you could be flooded out. We looked at each other and said, okay.
All right, sure. Yeah, that's cool. All right. You'll just add to the tension of the scenes.
It's true.
Yeah. Let's talk about the mansion that we shot. It's already passed here in the film, but that we shot the party scene in, because that was something that was a last-minute find that we were kind of panicking about, right?
We were going to have to, shut down. We had a location, and they, at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, the day before we were going to shoot, the people decided that they didn't want 55 people in their house shooting for 3 nights.
I have no idea why.
I don't know.
Yeah.
They were all very attracted to Hollywood, but when they realized, I knew when the question came, how many people are going to be in the house? I knew we had trouble. Yeah. So across the street from one of these houses was this house that was in construction, but it had enough wall and enough structure that I knew that between Steve and Ryan, you guys could make it work. So I went back to the set, where they were shooting. I said, okay, you're going to have to trust me. Here's some pictures. This is what it looks like. They got there the day of shooting and figured out all the shots. It was quite amazing. And
the house itself, the fellow who lived there was kind of an eccentric billionaire, and he had made his money off of public telephones, right, and cigarette machines, if I remember right, vending machines or something. So the whole place was stacked, floor to ceiling, with these skeletons of these phone booths and 50s phones and vending machines.
He was a major pack rat. He had stuff in there, and really valuable stuff, just
beautiful
sort of piled on. Yeah. I still get calls on my cell phone from him every once in a while.
He was such a sweet guy, and he gave us the eagle statue, right? That's in the Pin's basement.
Yes, he did.
He lent that to us.
He let us take this really valuable statue. He was very terrific, but you never knew that if at any moment he was just going to go. You know what I mean? Just flip and realize that he also didn't want the 50 people in his house.
Yeah, yeah.
But it worked out really well.
Yeah, that was really, and specifically how you kind of handled that location. It was when we first
we had
walked
no
in there.
money.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
We had no money and there was no furniture, so I got a lot of sheets. And
There's actually in the scene where Brad is like giving his big talk, you can see what they're actually sitting on in there is not furniture, it's big rolled
Rolls
up
of carpet.
which was actually in there when we went because the place was unfinished. You know?
But and the room with the dialogue with Brendan and Laura, I mean, the room was totally under construction.
Yeah.
But, you know, you got to embrace it and surrender, and there you go.
Yeah.
Take it for what it is.
So the Pins basement set was kind of the other, but that's the only thing that we built. That's the only actual set in the whole thing.
The set in the hallway. The challenge of this was finding a place to build it.
Yeah.
We were like film gypsies. We never knew from day to day, really, whether we'd be thrown out or whether we could actually get all the work because we just sort of did it on the fly. But that was the excitement. I remember, I want to go back to the Coffee and Pie Oh My. It's an actual restaurant parking lot. Then we got there very early in the morning. We made a deal with these people. We set up this elaborate dolly shot. And then the people realized that we were taking their parking spaces. So they basically said, it was very nice having you here, but you have to leave. So we broke down the whole setup, and I get my cell phone rings, and it's Ryan. He says, okay, I have to ask you to do something illegal. I said, okay. He said, I want you to steal a grocery cart for the next scene. So there was one, and we took it, and we just sort of went in back of the school. They were really great in letting us be there and just redid it. But this was the nature of what this filmmaking was like. You just sort of made every situation work for you. And you, because of that kind of pressure, you were constantly making these creative decisions and choices all day because you had to solve the problem. The object was to never stop shooting.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And let's talk a little bit about the. I want to get back to the set, because that was like, and we were like you talked about the gypsy thing. I mean, usually what you would do for that is you would rent a soundstage, and you would go in the soundstage and build it. You'd have a light grid, you'd have green rooms, but there are no sound stages in San Clemente. There's plenty of beautiful beaches and lovely bed and breakfast places if anyone wants to visit, but no sound stages. So
And this was like a storage park.
Yeah.
So there were businesses on either side of us, and during one day of the shooting, there was a party.
Well, we literally, let me set it up. We found a maintenance garage. It was like a garage, right?
It was a storage facility.
Yeah.
You know where the
for our soundstage to build this set in, just because it just became a challenge to find a space that was big enough to build a set in.
And they wouldn't let us nail into the ground, and we had to tie it off on the sides. It was structurally to make it safe, but it was really, really hard to find a space, and the sound issue was really quite a challenge. We had to stop frequently because there was some sort of church group, wasn't it?
Yeah, there was a youth group next door that was having a party, and so all of a sudden Christian rock would start blasting through the walls in the middle of the pin scene. And we would
talk about changing the mood.
I know, I dug it. I think we should have kind of gone with it, man. I think we should have just rolled with it and let it happen.
But the whole shoot was like that. You never had enough money or preparation to sort of protect those areas of, the sound, lock down the location. I mean, parking the trucks was a challenge. But the most amazing thing is that every day we made our days, we covered the material, and just by sheer force of will, I think, and we were gypsies, and everybody was having a great time. That was the best part. It was like one big film gypsy party.
I was talking with Nora. We were talking about the feel of the set, and we're like, "Oh my God, we sound like a bunch of burned out hippies talking about back in the day." It's like, yeah, it's true though. Yeah.
It was just like that, And I think those challenges make a better creative flow. You know what I mean? You're sort of primed. The pump is primed.
Yeah.
You're sort of receptive. Okay, we're out of here. What are we gonna do here?
Yeah, and you have to be so just on your toes and so conscious, not just of what you had planned to do, but of what the seed of what you're trying to accomplish is in the scene. You know, you have to not be thinking in terms of, okay, this is exactly how we planned it out. You have to be thinking, what does this scene accomplish? So that when you can't do it that way, you can think on your feet and think, okay, what's going to accomplish this scene in the same or a better way? But that's a different way to do it.
You just have to keep telling the story.
Yeah,
and keep that camera on. Because we had X amount of time with all the equipment.
Yeah.
So it was just like running forward. But the unit of us, we were really lucky. We just connected. We had a great group who were all working towards the same thing. So every time we'd be thrown out or something failed, someone would say, okay, well, why don't we just glue it together? You know, and we did. You know?
Yeah. The mirror in the kerosene at the end is the other thing that was kind of a big headache / fun. Headache for you, fun for me.
We
I guess.
didn't have enough money to have a special effects guy to do an actual break on camera.
But let's real quick. Let's talk about this scene too, because this was this was actually a assistant vice principal's office at the school. And the cool thing was the posters that you see in the background when it goes up to a higher shot, the inspirational posters. They like all this stuff. I think was actually there. It was just totally perfect. And there's a bird poster behind Brendan that says every expert was once a beginner, and it's like so. Anyway, sorry.
And the bobbing head
and the hawk, the eagle. Look at there on the left side, right by Richard, and that was.
We were just blessed by propinquity.
Yeah.
I mean, you just open yourself up to it and propel yourself forward, and somehow we shot all day long.
Can you say that word again? Propinquity.
Propinquity?
Propinquity. I like that word.
Propinquity.
It's nice.
It's a very Woody Allen word. Just like jejune.
There you go.
So this room, I mean, this was a challenge for camera because the room is about, 8 by 8.
There's no space in there, and that was one of the reasons we wanted to build that basement set, was so we could fly the walls out.
Yeah.
And that was one of the few sets where we had that luxury. Usually it was a matter of there was someone at a Q&A somewhere that made kind of the unexpected comment, which I thought was really really cool. But they said it kind of there's a certain type of feel to the visuals of this that feels like kind of the 70s
absolutely
new Hollywood type thing. And I think to a large degree that comes out of these situations. It comes out of the practical restraints of being put in a room and having to find an interesting angle that you could manage to cram the camera in there for. Or there's a lot of zooms in the movie, which were mostly just because it takes too long to set up dolly track. And so I would just sit there with the zoom gun, and in a lot of instances I could just ride the zoom and just, in the middle of a scene, if I wanted to add a little tension, just put a little creep zoom in there.
The restrictions created like a new art form.
Right.
I really think that if we had a lot of money and a lot of time, it wouldn't be the same movie. It wouldn't be that sort of edgy, sort of by the seat of your pants movie.
Yeah.
So there better be some meat at the end of this, like you say. Or at least a fall guy. Or you're it.
This is the scene here that I was required to steal for. It was, remember?
Won't be the last.
No.
Yeah.
It was great.
And
then we carted this phone booth around
There
with
are
us.
no telephone booths left in the entire world. I am sad to say. We had to place this everywhere. There were some kids from the high school had been in the movie who actually emailed me, and they went around San Clemente finding all the locations we shot, and they were so disappointed that the phone booth wasn't at Sarmentosa and Del Rio. So yeah.
And do you remember that day you came out to me and you said, do you think it'd be okay if the phone booth opened up right on the street? So he walked right on the street. I said, it's completely ridiculous.
Yeah, it makes no sense if you actually think about it.
But
in
you
movie
did it and
world,
it worked.
Yeah, it's all right.
So
yeah. Oh, we were talking about the mirror, actually.
Oh, the mirror.
Yeah. Because that was a bigger headache than I thought it would be for you.
Yeah. To get this to work in any kind of way was we had enough money for one mirror, so we had to break it and pull it out so that it looked organic, that it actually broke. And then I was supposed to get some plastic glass, and I never did. I failed. And so we had all the shards from the glass, and Steve and Ryan put on glasses because we were actually throwing the glass down so that they could get that shot of it looking like we broke it. And it works. It's pretty amazing, and actually nobody died. So there was no blood.
And nobody you're going to hear about in this commentary track. Yeah.
It was pretty amazing. It was a pretty hard thing to do, but you just figure it out.
Yeah.
I want to see the pin.
I want to talk really quickly about that punch that just happened and that little shot, because it's something that it's like a fun visual thing again that people ask about. And I actually, now that I've started talking about it, I realize I can't completely explain actually how we did it, because it kind of requires a little diagram. But basically, it's a hidden cut where basically we had the camera back on the dolly track on a long lens for the beginning of it, and we slowly backed up. And then when Tugger walked up to him, pulled back for the punch, and we had them freeze. And we cut the camera, cranked it down to about 6 frames a second, and backed up on the dolly track. Then started rolling again, rolled the camera forward. Exactly when we passed the spot that we were at on the dolly, we cued them, and Tugger started doing the punch, and Joe started doing it with them in slow motion while we did the dolly counter zoom going up to them. That probably made no sense at all, but now it's, you can play it back, and again, you can make your own version of Brick at home. Yeah, and then this whole scene with that's 3 frames a second rolling along with the car backwards, because even at going slowly, we didn't want to have the car coming at the camera in case something bad happened. So, and it's the same thing when it goes past his sleeve. It's just going at a few frames a second. So,
I didn't even know that.
No? Well,
wow.
This is need-to-know information.
This is true. I feel very informed.
Yeah. You gotta buy the DVD to learn this stuff. The other thing that was kind of cool, funny to me, and that was an unexpected challenge, was finding the exterior of the Pin's house.
Oh yeah.
Because
everything's beautiful in San Clemente.
San Clemente is this, really beautiful beach town, and everything over the past few years has really been built up. It became a massive challenge to find a rundown one-story house.
I heard that it is no longer there. They leveled it, and it's now a McMansion. Is that true?
Yeah, a week after we filmed. We got there. I don't know if you remember. We literally got that house and shot it right before they were going to completely level it. I think the next week they leveled the place.
I'm not surprised. It's probably a $5 million house now.
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
And if we leaned too hard in it would have fallen down. So it was quite a thing.
Yeah.
I wanted to say something else about the set that we built. The set was actually 2 sets.
And we're coming up to it here. This is actually going to be scene specific.
Oh, there you go.
We're professionals.
There you go.
So, yeah, that's right. We had to do a transformer thing with it, right?
Right. We built this hallway, and when we go inside into the pins, this is sort of incarnation 1. And, wait, we're just about to go in here. I actually have this light in my house right now.
You stole again.
It'll be a famous, iconic thing.
I started you stealing and it never stops.
There you go. Yeah. There you go. So here we are in this low ceilinged, and actually you wanted the ceilings even lower.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, well.
This was all right.
it's pretty low. It's pretty low. I made them go away and shoot some stuff outside, and then we painted the whole thing black, and I had built in a window on the wall on the right there, so that it's the sort of storage room where with the vanity mirror that spins.
This is the same room. It just repainted and
It's just repainted and redressed.
Yeah, because we couldn't afford.
Because we couldn't afford to build it something else, number one, and number two, we didn't have the time.
I remember, though, we still had to shoot, there was some scheduling thing where we still had to shoot some hallway scenes, though, after you had painted
That's
it
right.
black. So we had to leave a section of the wall still the wood, so just the section you saw through the hallway was still, Do
that.
Yeah. Well, necessity is the mother of invention. I mean, there was no way, even if we had the money to build it, it was so problematic finding a place that we could build it. We couldn't fit 2 sets on this stage, in this warehouse place. So It worked.
Orange comb.
I mean, you paint it black and all the detail goes away and it just becomes a cavernous, blank space with a window. So,
And on that note, I'd like to thank Miss Jody Tillen for joining us. Jody, thank you very much
And
for,
to you.
for coming to the Brick Late Night Show.
cool.
I'm your guest, Rian Johnson. We'll be back after this commercial break.
Oh my God.
Ink blotter
Okay,
on the
goodbye.
desk in the den in the basement of the house with the tacky mailbox.
And we're back, and I realize I said I'm your guest, Rian Johnson, which makes no sense at all. Hello. One of the really cool things about another one of the things about being down and saying, oh, here's another trash bag effect where we just drag the trash bags over, and then woof. One of the really cool things about shooting down in San Clemente for me was that there was an element of deja vu about it, because I've been making movies since I was 12. I was one of those terrible kids running around with his dad's video camera when he was a little kid, and through high school, that's basically what my friends and I did to avoid social situations. Was we made movies, and you get together on the weekend with your friends, and what are we gonna do? And we get the video camera and we'd make a movie, and in a bizarre way, 10 years later, I found myself back in high school with a group of friends making a movie, and there was something really cool about that.
But what the hell with what you said before?
And also, being at the high school, one of the things that we talked to the school about, one of the really cool side effects of being down there was that a lot of the kids who were going to school there came to work as extras, but also as assistants to help us out on the shoot, and got to kind of experience filmmaking. And I know it was fun for me just kind of putting myself back in the day. There were a lot of kids that came and helped us out that reminded me so much of reminded me of when I was young. And I know, it was cool for me to be able to bring them into the process and to make them hopefully feel a part of it and feel like we're all making this movie together. It's fun for them to see that.
I thought we had orange juice, Brendan. I'm sorry. How about some Tang? No, that's more like soda, isn't it?
Water's fine, ma'am. Thanks.
Oh,
Yeah,
wait a
here we
minute.
have the infamous mother scene. I'm not doing scene specific stuff with this typically, just because I don't know, just because I it's kind of a pet peeve of mine on commentaries when it kind of about the hour mark, you can tell that the person giving the commentary track gets tired, and it just kind of turns into them pointing out to you whatever's on the screen at the moment, and just and there's the picture, and there's Brendan. Oh, yeah, this is the part where he ate the cereal. And there's the pin. Yeah. The casting process for the movie was weirdly normal, actually. I think that's one question that, when I've shown the movie to people, that people ask. And there was no real kind of casting involved where I was friends with someone and just cast him in the movie. It was all done in a very straightforward way, which was, the way the casting works is you have a casting director. In this case, it was Shannon McCanyon was our casting director, and they know all the agents who represent all the actors. They have relationships with them, and they've got like a encyclopedic knowledge of all the actors in town. So they send the script to the agent reads it, thinks who would be good for it, and then basically gives the script to the actor, and then they set up a meeting, or, if you're really lucky, you get the actor to come in and actually read a scene for you. And that's how we did it. Again, because we had the luxury of time on our side, we didn't have money, but we did have time. We saw a lot of young actors, got to see a lot of really talented young people. And it was kind of to a large degree, it was an embarrassment of riches. There's a lot of really talented people in this age range, and a lot of the movies that are geared towards them, a lot of the roles they typically get offered, are kind of the same kind of thing. There's very little stuff that's weird like this, and that has unique challenges like this that gets thrown at young people. So we found a lot of actors who were very eager to jump into this.
Exactly.
overall, the cast came together very close to when we started shooting also. I mean, during those 6 years of trying to get the money together, obviously we went through lots of different variations, and we found different people over the course of the time. But, because they're supposed to be young, it by the time we were actually shooting, some of the first people we were considering, could have played the assistant vice principal, So there's also something people notice sometimes, or point out, is just, the kind of the age of the people, and how they obviously, a lot of these actors, when most of our people when we were shooting were like 20 when we were shooting, so they're a little older than high school. And that's a weird convention that mostly just comes about from SAG, Screen Actors Guild regulations, that if you're actually working with minors, it's much more restrictive in terms of the hours that they can work.
Thanks.
But there's also, I don't know, that people have, when that bothers people, I can understand it, kind of sticking out a bit, but I think they all look about right. And also there's a rich tradition of that in movies. If you watch movies from going back to Rebel Without a Cause, I think James Dean was, what was he? I think he was like 26 when he made that movie. And, it's always funny for me to see kind of the high school gang members in movies from the 50s, and they're, they don't even look this young. Some of them look like they're like 27, So. But anyway, the casting process happened very close to shooting, and because we didn't have the money, we had the luxury of seeing lots of people and finding exactly the right person for each part. That was another nice thing that financing the movie completely independently gained us. We didn't have the consideration of, do we have a big enough name in this part or that part? We could just see people and pick exactly who we wanted.
It's all coming down on her.
Saying Em scraped the junk off the pin? I don't care how hard she was hooked. I don't buy that.
You weren't there. She wasn't herself. It had dug deep. It was awful.
Joining me in the studio for the total babe section of the commentary is Miss Michelle Posh, our costume designer. Hello, Michelle.
Hello. Thank God you can't see me right now, because it would be a lie.
Oh, you look hot.
Well, the only way Ryan hires is through hot factor.
That's seriously, that's the only thing, which is,
Thank
obviously.
God I looked better 3 years ago.
You look beautiful, darling.
Enough about me. So anyways.
Yes. You did a really kind of cool thing. Like the costumes, like every other aspect of this movie, we had no money. And yet there was, especially with the girls, there was a lot of ground to cover in terms of the costumes, and a lot of them had to be very, very stylized. So, Michelle, what was your approach to accomplishing this?
Well, Ryan, basically the thing is I think when you and I met for the very first time, we sat down and you had really strong ideas as to the characters. Certain little things like shoes, like Emilie's shoes, Joe's shoes, the big coats. You gave me a lot to go through. And then I just went and found different options through costume houses, and a lot actually, because there was no money, going through small designers, just through word of mouth, like contacting them, saying we're doing this amazing film, sending them, a bit of the script. People were really into it.
Like nationwide, like across the whole country.
Across
you tracked
the
down
world,
small
actually.
design.
England,
Really?
New York, Portland, and these people were all, it was actually like a web thing. People were recommending, I'd send out 100 emails, and I'd get emails, friend of a friend of a friend who heard about this project. So,
for some bizarre reason, I still have that like flower thing around her neck. I think because we had it for some reason. I swear to God, I didn't steal it and hang it on a candle shrine to Megan or something. For some reason, I have it.
Oh, you have that?
I've got that. You probably need it back.
We
right?
need that back. That was the whole deal. Is with it is most of the designers were small and upcoming.
Yeah.
And they.
Oh, you know why I have it? Because for the reshoots with Nora, we used it to double for the thing around her neck for her necklace, and we never ended up using it. So I still had it. Yeah.
Okay. Well, she needs that back.
Okay. Sorry.
Shauna Shantz needs that back. But basically, I would. Just tell people about the script. They were all really interested. I mean, all I could say was upcoming upcoming actresses and actors. Emilie wasn't on Lost yet, so everyone knew who Joseph Gordon-Levitt was.
Mysterious Skin hadn't come out.
Mysterious Skin hadn't come out yet. Nora was on Everwood, but it was really up and coming, and it was on the strength of the script, and a lot of me just saying, you know what, you have to trust me. This is the most amazing project. We're all working for nothing. And you have to believe that this is gonna come together and help everybody. The actress is gonna look great. It's gonna fill the script with creativity. So
So they really, yeah. And
They were into it,
And
and
we
they-
ended up getting all these really cool pieces sent in from these
Really
really
cool
eclectic
pieces.
designers. And, you know, like what were some of the, I know that Emily's purse and like the,
Yep.
what were some of the
Emily's
other things?
purse when she's breaking up with, when she's crying and she's with Brendan. Laura's scarf.
That
when
scarf
she-
that she's wearing, the blue.
The scarf that she's wearing came from New York, hand knit for that.
Wow.
All of the shirts, most of the shirts that the Brain wears are from a woman in Portland. I'm trying to think what else. Every single character besides Joe, because Joe's character was so basic. And basically, Joe came in his own clothes. I mean,
I think those were his jeans, right? And his shoes.
very difficult. Joe does not like to wear anything new, so we spent a couple days looking for the perfect jeans. We finally found those at Aardvarks, and he wore the exact same pair of jeans and the exact T-shirt every single day, and shoes every single day. We had to glue the shoes back together because they were falling apart because he had owned them for so long. But every other character had a piece. Dode is wearing a belt buckle from a designer in New York.
Has a big D on it.
Has a big D on it. Yeah, I mean, everybody, all the main characters, they're all wearing something from a small designer. So
Joe's, real quick, I'm going to poke in with a little, it's time for scene, specific time. This was the first scene that we shot. This was on the very first day, and this was a really fun thing to start with. And this guy who plays the lug, his name is Cody Lightning. He's a really, really cool guy who was in this movie called Manic with Joe. And this shot in particular was a lot of fun to do, especially on the first day, because, you know, he trips, he actually falls onto a mattress, gets up, positions himself, they pull away the mattress, and then we pan over, but everyone was gathered around the monitor, and just watching the monitor, it happened live, and so watching the monitor, everyone was like cringing when they saw it.
Is he
and he got the
okay?
effect. And we actually did almost kill Cody a couple times, because for Joe to do the slide, they took this cardboard, and if you were there for that, they took this cardboard and they put this like this stuff on it that was kind of this granular sort of like it was some sort of like
it was like sand
or something, but it was so fine it was like ball bearings. So when you put it on there, you just slid and there was no friction.
I remember that, and he just went. Whoosh,
Yeah,
like
and
kept-
so that we were doing this one specific shot where Cody was supposed to be running and Joe was supposed to slide at the camera, and Joe slid and actually slid into Cody and actually did like trip
I
him.
remember that actually. Yeah.
And then the poor guy, and then we had Cody on the ground for that overhead shot, and then the camera almost fell on him. And it came
I
off.
remember they were like, great first day.
I know, we almost killed our actor.
And I remember that same exact scene, Joe's insoles of his shoes. If you look really closely,
Yeah.
the insoles fly out of his shoe on one of them. So it's like his shoes and then this like flappy piece of leather that's like landed on the concrete. First day of the shoot, I'm like, okay, we're in trouble with these shoes. We were gluing them nonstop.
That's what you'll get every week for your service.
Here we are in the Penny van. The Pins outfit was like the most expensive rental that we had, right? That cape, for some reason, was actually...
Yeah, that was, we rented it from Universal, although Universal also helped us.
Yeah.
They gave us a cut rate. I mean, everyone really, it was like they did it for the love of film. There was no, it was all for love of film.
And Joe's jacket was, I mean, that Joe and I remember us doing a lot of talking about what that jacket should look like, because that was kind of his only characteristic, you know, piece of clothing.
That, the white T-shirt, the jeans, and the shoes, that was what he wore. And the glasses. The glasses were really important.
Yeah. And I remember we found that jacket surprisingly soon in the process. We found it. It was a rental, right? It was out.
That was a rental as well. And thankfully, there were 4 jackets, because a lot of people don't know that, you know, one is age. You know, you have to have, through the process of a film, like there's a cut in it, and so there's the bloody one, and there's the one that's not bloody, and then there's the one that's, you know, taped after the blood.
Doubles and triples of most of the costumes, actually.
Because
right?
we're shooting out of orders, so
right.
That's the tough thing, is you find something you love, and then you have to find 4 of them. And if it's a vintage piece, which Joe likes everything vintage, then it's a really, you know, you got to work really hard. Like there, it's the blood, you know, the bloody one is right there, so.
Yeah. Let's talk about shoes.
Let's talk about shoes.
Because that was kind of something that when I sat down and had my first meeting with Joe, one of the first questions he asked me totally out of the blue was, what shoes does Brendan wear? And that was cool, because I'd actually, it seems like a random question, but I'd given a lot of thought to the shoes.
You guys were totally on the same track with that.
Yeah.
And also with the pin, too.
Yeah, that's right, with the patent leather and then the big funky shoe.
Right.
Where did Emily's shoes come from? Those.
Emily's shoes were just actually cheap shoes that we aged down. I mean, we found them. I think it was a real last minute thing. We found them, and I don't even think I showed them to you new. I think I just made them look old, so that you had no idea where they had come from. I mean, it was kind of a costume moment where you don't let the director know exactly what they look like when they were gotten, but you make them look so just old and worn out that you would never know that they just came out of a box with a price tag.
And I tell you about the moment where I thought, oh, we have this kind of artsy thing with shoes. We were kind of like, exemplifying all the characters with their shoes. This is, and then the other day I was rewatching Footloose. And I realized
I heard about that on the radio. I can't believe you're.
I realized that it's the opening scene from Footloose. That it's because we're really.
I could work with you again, but I don't think we can be friends.
Sorry, sorry, we're friends. What? Oh,
Ryan, come on!
Oh my God, this is going on the DVD. Yeah.
The Footloose thing, yeah, definitely. Well, those were Brendan's. Actually, I remember during the fitting, and you were there.
Yeah.
He tried on, which happened a lot with Joe, is he tried on probably 6 pairs of shoes and then ended up wearing his own. Because it was true. He liked, men like their own shoes. You are also a shoe guy with your shoes. It just fit the character, him wearing his own shoes. We had the same kind of shoes, but his shoes made sense. They were falling apart. He felt like he lived those shoes.
Right.
So.
Yeah. Don't go to class. And then I guess the glasses is the one other thing. I mean, that's kind of giving Brendan a uniform that he had.
He wore a uniform the whole time, and literally, it never changed. I mean, in fact, does he ever wear anything different?
No, he loses the jacket at the end.
He loses the jacket at the end, and at one point, though, he is wearing no jacket in the flashback with Emily.
Yeah. Where he's like when he was young and innocent.
Right, and his hair is a little different, and he doesn't have the jacket on. That was the difference.
What else should we talk about with these glasses were pretty amazing.
The glasses were amazing, and
they had they were so thick you couldn't see through them. So they were special made, and they had a little kind of circular. Remember this? A little circular window, so we could see through them. Yeah.
He was such a sport. Freezing cold, sitting. I mean, I remember we had to stick something underneath his butt so that because it was wet and cold while sitting down there.
And Matt was actually the only. He was 16 when we shot the movie.
He was 16. That's true.
He was actually the only.
And Noah's only just 18, right?
Yeah.
Was back then.
Now he's old.
Now he's an old man of 19.
This is kind of a rag on Noah.
Slice?
Noah Segan.
Noah Segan?
We can kind of, Nora said that he looked very girlish, and we're going to keep that up.
Come on.
He'll be in to defend himself later
Noah's
on.
a fox.
What else should we talk about with the costumes? What else?
Well, why, Ryan, did you think that... I'm going to interview you now.
Oh my God!
Why was it really important that you thought that the jacket come off and on, and why did you think he lost the jacket at the end?
It was that
because we never had a chance to talk about this stuff.
I know this is
because it was so manic and the hours were so long, and it's your head's both of our heads
now we
were
can
wrapped.
have our creative decision
Exactly.
about we can go back digitally and make changes to
exactly.
the jacket was. For us, one of the things that we talked a lot about in the rehearsal process was the physicality of the role and the fact that he was very guarded and his posture was a very deliberate thing with his hands stuffed into his pockets, and his kind of hunched walk was something that he worked on and developed very carefully for the part. And the jacket was an essential part of that. The jacket was kind of like his shielding
like
thing.
a shell or something?
Yeah, it's his shell. It's his shielding thing against the world. So when you see him in the flashback with Emily back, 3 months ago when they broke up, back before he kind of went into loner mode, he doesn't have the jacket, his shirt is clean, and his hair is also pulled back from his forehead, so you can see his forehead, and so he has a much more kind of open, happier times. And then, of course, at the end of the movie, he loses the jacket again so that we can kind of echo that with the scene on the field with him and Laura, with her walking away, but under under very different circumstances.
Right.
So
Another thing that I thought was interesting is that you really wanted Tugger to wear a white hat.
mm-hmm.
That was like a really huge thing for you.
Well, originally in the script, he had a shaved head.
Right.
Yeah, originally Tugger was supposed to have a shaved head and have a scar running down his head. Which, by the way, that's what that thing on his head is supposed to be, is a scar. People ask if it's like dried blood or like a strand of hair or
Makeup, drat.
And Jill was our amazing makeup person. Yeah, created the thing, and it was cool because it was so, because you didn't quite know what it was. It looked
Right.
like it could have been,
Right, and
but,
he had such an angry disposition. It kind of looked like it was. I remember
Yeah, it looked like
at times in the script you said like the scar would pulse or something. Like it would.
yeah,
Like
exactly.
it would get red when he was angry, or
The color of raw liver, I think.
That's what, yeah. I remember something about that. But
And-
yeah, he wore a white hat.
I think, when we decided not to have him shave his head, when we found that white beanie, and there was something, I don't know, I think with Fleiss, one of the things I like about it is that it's a weirdly comic performance, and it's something that people, oftentimes have a reaction to one way or the other. They either point it out as like, as one of their favorite performances in the film, or it's something that takes him out. For me, it's something I love, and it's, if you look at him, he's giving a very, very comic performance as this kind of tough guy villain,
Right.
which I think is fantastic, and it's something that kind of goes back to the Hammett, both with Tugger and with the Pin, actually. The fact that there are these kind of comic elements to their character. That's something that Hammett did a lot with his villains. That he would build them up to be these badass dudes, and then with every detail he revealed about them, he would slightly undercut them. Like in the
Right.
Maltese Falcon, Casper Gutman, the Fat Man. I mean that you keep hearing about the Fat Man. I want to see the Fat Man. You
Right.
expect this really scary guy who's going to rip your throat out, and then like they captured it so well in the movie version. Bogart sits down with Sidney Greenstreet, and that first scene between them is like pure comedy. And he realizes
Right.
he's kind of a goofy guy.
Right.
So, I mean, having that element to the villains is something that, makes them much more interesting, I think, and is something that, for me, was a real element of that genre.
Right.
And there he is with the beanie.
With the beanie, which actually is an orange hat, and that's the lining, so that's the inside of the hat, turned inside out and tucked under.
It's orange on the inside.
It's orange on the inside. Yep. Yep. Anything else?
I think we've pretty much covered it.
I mean, the only other thing is the pin and the way we had to make the cool shoe.
Yeah, we taped it up, I think, like duct taped
Well,
it up.
you wanted him to have like a club foot type thing.
Yeah.
And so the way we did it is we basically bought a big boot and then had a normal loafer.
Yeah.
And then we taped it like around and around and around.
That's right, yeah.
So it would make sense that he had the cane and.
And on that note, I'd like to thank the lovely and totally freaking hot Michelle Posh.
Very hot.
So yeah, it is. And it's hot in here. So let's take off all our clothes.
I'm going. Ryan.
No, I didn't make that reference. You didn't. You heard nothing. We can edit that out. Thank you.
We can edit that. It's very professional hot tubbing sessions.
Yeah, exactly.
And a lot of what was the whiskey?
Huh?
What was the scotch?
We can't say it because we'd have to clear it legally. Big hand for Michelle Posh, ladies and gentlemen, before she says anything incriminating. Big hand.
Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you, Michelle.
Okay, Ryan. Back bad. One of ours took a dose off the top, laid him out.
Frisco.
Yeah, poor Frisco. You heard about that? What cat's the rat?
When I wrote the script, I was 23. Was right out of film school. When we shot it, I was 29. And so one of the really cool things about once we got the money, I could actually make it, and we had the cast come in, is that it was great for me suddenly being able to work with a group of people who were much closer to the age of high school and much closer to the age that I was at when I wrote it, and that could bring that kind of youthful energy into it. And I'm saying all this to introduce a man, a myth, a legend, a man I like to refer to as the other Noah, Mr. Noah Segan, who plays Dode in the movie. Hello, Noah.
Hello, it's good to be here.
Yes, it's good to have you. So yeah,
Gravitas.
Gravitas. Oh yeah. So I think we're also putting your audition on this DVD.
Wow. Well,
Yeah.
I haven't seen that in years, probably.
I got a call. Someone who says they
I
need
keep telling you this and you never believe me, but after you came in and auditioned, basically there was, that it was completely decided that you were going to be playing the role. What, though, was... I remember you did some really kind of creepy method stuff to try and get into Dode.
Yeah, well...
Talk about your creepiness a little bit.
Talk about my creepiness.
We've already covered your feminine features.
My feminine features and, women from this coast to that know about my creepiness, but the rest of the audience may not. Basically, my favorite thing to talk about when I talk about where the character came from was this sort of one-line description.
Which is all the
Ryan
time,
wrote.
by the way. You stand in front of the mirror in the morning, and the gas station attendants, you bust
Yeah,
into,
at the bus station, at the local gas station. I tend to
I'm sorry.
The main thing that I noticed was describing Dode. It just said dusty and black was the description for Dode, and that to me just spoke annals of information about the character, and just immediately a vision sort of popped in my head, and I got this idea for sort of this kind of punk rock kind of cowboy sort of thing going on, and inherently creepy, inherently sort of a juxtaposition for Brendan. He's sort of Brendan gone bad. He's sort of the the other half of the zygote that that was the fat unattractive twin, so to speak, if we're allowed to talk about that. That's that's backstory, guys. Anyway, so.
Well, there's also one of the things we always talked about also, though, was Dode is one of the, in a weird way, one of kind of the purest characters in the script. And he's kind of there's a bit of like in the Maltese Falcon, you can draw a line between him and Wilma, the sad, kind of angry, but still you kind of feel bad for him.
Yeah. Well, you'll see
half smart guy who gets burned.
Yeah, you get to. I mean, obviously we're all listening to the commentary here, so you'll see in this scene coming up right now is really where the sort of heart for Dode in my mind comes in. This is my favorite scene that I did out of the few that I have in the movie that really sort of illustrates sort of what this guy's all about. And it's a little bit, more substantive as opposed to that sort of crazy style that this guy has.
And you see that you're exactly like Brendan. He's acting as opposed to Kara's acting out of greed, and Laura's acting for her own reasons. Dode is acting because he believes a certain thing that isn't true. He's half smart about the situation, but he's purely acting because he
means very well.
Yeah, because he loves Emily and wants to,
Yeah, and he really thinks that there is this sort of future here. He really thinks that there is a right that needs to be wronged, and that's very similar to what Brendan is trying to do. Is this sort of against all odds and sort of haplessly. You've got this one guy who's is a total dope fiend and degenerate. You've got this other guy who's for whatever reason it's his ex-girlfriend, not even his current girlfriend. He's obviously got some sort of horrible flu or something, who's, is sort of against all things that should happen, really making an effort to just, rectify a situation and do right.
When we shot this scene, also, you were phenomenally sick. You were couldn't stand up sick.
There was, I think it was a little bird flu or SARS was going around or something. I think, polio, I'm not sure, had made its way back. Down into Orange County, and people were dropping like flies. You were sick for a long time. I think Joe was the only one who did not end up really sick, and of course he was horribly sick as his character in the movie.
Yeah.
And I don't remember shooting the scene. I really don't remember shooting that scene, and I don't remember driving home. I think I had 3 or 4 days off.
I was so angry you drove home that night because you could barely stand up. And then after we finished shooting, I said, "Where's Noah?" And he said he drove home.
And I swear to God that the next thing that I remember was 4 days later waking up in my bed with the doctor having made a house call.
Wow.
I've never been that sick before in my life.
Yeah.
And yet I've never done such good work under even remotely those circumstances.
If you can just if you can bottle that particular strain of flu, you can just
exactly.
hit that high point.
That's
every
why
time.
whenever they talk about these pandemics, I just say, bring it on. I'm like, what else is gonna happen?
That's
you know
my
what I mean?
method,
It could be
man.
like the next Tootsie. It could be
exactly.
I can't talk about Tootsie, can I?
Yeah, you can.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
Midnight Cowboy.
There you go.
One of the masters right there.
The effect that's coming up in this scene here, which this is from I really like this scene mostly because it's one of the few scenes in the movie that has more than 2 people in it.
Yeah,
It's
well,
like
that's like my
actually
favorite.
4 people interacting, which is a rare thing in this film.
That's my favorite thing is I think we've talked about before is that only when something really bad happens do you have more than 2 characters for the most part in the film, and that's I don't know if that was something you planned in the writing process, but it just happens to be that when you get 3 of these people in a room or 4 of these people in a room or in one location, something really horrible happens usually.
Yeah. It's just like in real life.
There
No,
you go.
That's not true.
Yeah, I mean,
let's talk about the effect that's coming up. Let's
Right
talk
on.
about the big gunshot. Why don't you explain to people kind of technically how we
Oh,
how
it
we
was the
did
most
that?
nerve-wracking
Again,
thing in the
because
world.
we're explaining all these things once again so that you can go and make your own version of Brick at home.
Oh, that would be so cool.
That'd be great.
That would be so.
Like
Guys,
that
do
Raider,
it.
like that Raiders thing, where that
I
would
am-
be the ultimate compliment.
I am so. If I see one kid ever dressed as Dode on Halloween, I'll never act again. Like that's it. That's all I need. You got to get the big D belt buckle, kids. So what we did here was actually sort of a 2-in-1. The stunt people, special effects people call them gags. I like calling them gags too because it sounds kind of vaudeville, like hey, it's the gag. So it was kind of 2 gags in one, and the first gag is a gun with a blank loaded in it, which is very common, and they've got different types of blanks. This was sort of a very low impact blank because it was very close to my head. I'm of course giving a lot away right now, but everybody's seen the movie, right? Yeah. What are you doing listening to commentary if you haven't watched a movie? Jeez, that's not allowed. And the other gag was this very, very intricate sort of pneumatic system that snaked up the side of my head that I had a little button sort of under my arm that I had to press.
It's a canister of compressed air. Right?
Yeah, filled with blood and guts.
Yeah.
The blood and guts of actors that didn't make it in the film.
Your predecessors.
Yeah. And so the minute that Tug shot the gun, I had to sort of press down with my part of body that was facing away from the camera, obviously, and expel this compressed air filled with blood and guts, and I forget what it really was. And here we go. Wait for it. There it is.
Boom. And then that smoke that comes out the back is actually a mistake, and it's something that I freaked out about a bit when I first saw it because it's the compressed air. The other thing that happened, and then of course we watch it again, and we're like, ooh, that's kind of cool. The other thing is these birds. We had these birds. We cued them out. They did the gunshot. We had like 2 takes at it. And on our second take, the gunshot happened perfect. We pushed the birds out.
Drop kick the birds out.
And then the birds didn't go. They hustled back in the darkness.
Right.
And so it took us, I told everyone to freeze, and it took us about 15 seconds to get the birds out. That's one of the few effects we had to do in the movie. And it's not that birds aren't digital or anything. They're the actual birds. They eventually went out, but we had to do kind of a split screen thing in order to adjust the timing so the birds went out.
I never knew that. That's
well, I've
interesting.
just ruined a shot of an effect in the film.
My favorite thing about that scene was also the sort of existential concept of Ryan yelling, "Noah, do this, Noah, do that," because it was without sound. And of course, I was staring straight in the air with my blood and guts oozing down my back while he's directing the other Noah, Noah Fleiss, and saying, move to the right, come towards me, look at so and so, the things you do when you don't have to do sound. And I was just and he's yelling, Noah, he's far away from me, and I just felt
echoey tunnel
and the echoey drain pipe, and I'm just thinking to myself, this is what it feels like. This is it.
Were you thinking that I was God? Because that's cool.
Yeah, at first up until very recently, I thought that God sounded like Werner Herzog, and now I think it sounds like Rian Johnson.
You're saying I don't sound like Werner Herzog, which
not
is
today.
insulting to me.
No.
That's wrong. And on that, now that we've covered an existential moment, I think we have to get you away from a microphone. So, yeah.
All right. Well,
I think
job for the professionals.
Ladies and gentlemen, Noah Segan, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you, ladies, gentlemen. Rian Johnson.
I thought it was true.
It's a hell of a thing.
I want to talk a little bit about the post-production. There's a segment on the DVD, the deleted scenes, which, to a large degree, I talk a lot about the cutting in it. The whole thing is kind of like a little mini commentary about the editing. So I will discreetly skip that here, refer you to that section of the DVD. But I want to talk about the music. Nathan Johnson, who is my cousin, we have been making movies together since we were little kids, did the music for the film. And basically, I have a very big family. I have like 20 or 30 younger, I can't keep track of them, younger cousins, and we're all very close. My grandparents, was one of the things growing up that they did an amazing job of, was making sure the family all had vacations together and that we all hung out. And so I have all these cousins, and we're all more like siblings than cousins. And Nathan and I, we would make movies together when we were kids. Every time the family would get together, we would, for a vacation, instead of having a vacation, we would wrangle all the younger cousins and basically make a movie. And so we have, instead of a photo album with our family, we have these little family movies that we've made throughout the years, which is kind of an interesting side note, just that, the idea of taking a genre piece and doing it with younger people. Yeah, that's exactly what we were doing with these family movies over the years, so maybe that's where that comes from. But Nathan kind of split into doing music, and I kind of split into doing film, and it was really cool years later to come back and meet, not literally meet, but come back together on this project. The references I gave him in terms of soundtrack, when we started working after we had shot the film, where I told him to listen to a lot of Ennio Morricone's music. I told him to listen to the Third Man soundtrack. I told him to listen to basically films where the music takes an active hand in the storytelling and becomes very present as a character. And that's one of the things his score does in this. We came up with kind of a Peter and the Wolf type schematic where we assigned a theme and or an instrument to each of the different characters. And if you listen to the music, that really, and it helps to kind of tie the whole thing together almost in a subliminal way. It helps to kind of guide you through it. Early cuts of the film where I had a temp soundtrack in there, and for the temp I tried a lot of different stuff and nothing ever really worked. I had music from Twin Peaks in there for a long while, and I used some spaghetti western stuff, and it was too funky, and eventually when Nathan snapped his score into place, it all just kind of came together. The other weird aspect was Nathan was actually in England for the entire period of the composing and recording of the music, and I was in Los Angeles. So this is the first film, as far as I know, to be scored and for that collaboration to happen entirely via Apple's iChat. And we had the little iSight camera, and that's how we spotted the movie. That's how we would talk a little bit, and I would point my little camera towards the screen and play the movie, and then I'd point the camera back at me, and we would talk. And he was in England, I was in LA, and we weren't in the same room until the entire score had been finished, and we met in New York to mix it. And Nathan, the other thing that he did, which was he and Chris Mears and China Kent and the whole team who make up his band called the Cinematic Underground, they all got together, and all the sounds and the music, all the sounds and the instruments are all organic. There are no synthesizers in it. And he got very creative. I had told him I wanted to have kind of a junkyard feel to it. I had told him to listen to Tom Waits and kind of capture a bit of that broken down, wheezy feel. And so he tacked pianos, he played cheese graters, he played, beer cans, he beat on filing cabinets with mallets, and he broke guitars, and he played different stuff with bows, and that has no business being played with bows, different instruments, and he really got creative with the instruments in it, which is, I guess I'm biased because I love the big guy, but I can still sit down after watching this thing thousands of times. I'll still put on the music and just listen to it and be hearing new things each time. It's a really textured thing. And Nathan's also just he's about 12 feet tall, I'd say. 12 feet 5 maybe with his hair, and he always has this huge goofy smile on his face, and he's just one of the people who in your life who just, it's very hard to be in a room with and not start smiling in a goofy way as well. So Nathan, I wish you could be here, buddy.
I'm sorry, Brendan. I'm so sorry.
Speaking of big guys who I love, joining that illustrious list is Mr. Rom Bergman, our producer. Hello, Rom.
Hello. I'm not sure what I'm doing here exactly.
What do you mean?
You know, this is your territory, man.
Oh, listen, man.
I'm supposed to be behind somewhere.
You're behind the microphone is where you're at. Yeah. So I met Rom probably, it was about a year before we went into production, right?
Tell them about the notebook story.
With
That's
the
a good
notebook story? Which notebook story
With
is
my
that?
phone number that you got.
Oh, that's right. Okay, so when I was in college, when I was in film school, I was friends with Dan Mervish, who was one of the guys who started up the Slam Dance Film Festival. And one day he did this really nice thing. He sat down with me and kind of gave me a list of all these different producers who he thought could help me once I got out of school. And of course, being a complete introvert, and completely terrified, I didn't call any of them. And then, all these years go by, we start making the movie. I work with Rom on it. And then we were going to shoot the scene where he's flipping through those notebooks that he sees with Emily, that he takes from Emily's locker earlier in the film.
Good.
And I went into my closet and dug out my old college notebooks to use for that. And I'm flipping through it and I find that page, and down there at the bottom is Ron Bergman and your name.
Yes,
which
with pretty recent phone number.
Yeah, there you go.
But this was like 6 months after we filmed the movie.
Oh, that's right.
That's
This is
what
a
we're gonna
reshoot.
do for the reshoots.
Yeah, we did like 2 days of reshoots,
it was
like 6 months after filming.
Even like 8 months. Yeah.
There you go. Who first gave you the script? It was Angela.
It was Angela who gave me the script.
Angela
we got
Russell,
Russell
yeah.
got it from Brian Dreyfus.
My
Ryan's famous best agent in town.
Brian's father invested in the film, so that's a good agent.
If you find any other agent who will do it, stick to him.
Yeah.
So yeah, I got the script from Angela, and I think I read it right away. And then I met Ryan in Mel's Diner.
Mel's Diner, that's right.
On Sunset Boulevard. And we're talking about how to make the movie. And the rest is history.
And you had some really specific ideas though about how this movie should
be done for very cheap, because I really felt that Ryan has been trying to make the movie for too long, like many other people, for too much money, and people don't really understand the difference between getting the movies made and not. Many times is really for how much you're trying to make the movie. People just come up with ideas that a movie should cost $3 million without connection to the reality of what the market is and what the movie that they're trying to do. And I basically told you I think you should make the movie for $1 million or under, because that's the only way you're going to end up making the movie, and you're going to be able to make the movie the way you want to do it and control the destiny of the movie. And I think, you did it the right way.
I think I took your advice, which is our move.
You usually take my advice, yes. And
it's true.
It pays off.
I know, man. That's why I'm putting you in front of the microphone.
They shouldn't listen here. It's a bad thing.
So the way we got the money together for the movie was by kind of passing the hat to friends and family. I should say, though, I only felt comfortable doing that, once I had you and Mark on board, once I knew that I had you and you could, because I just felt very confident that with you running the show behind the scenes and with Mark that we could pull this off for this budget.
The best thing, I think, was meeting your family.
That's right. We had a dinner.
Convincing them.
It felt like a mafia sit-down or something. We went and had a nice dinner with them, and then, it really felt like the opening of The Godfather, like we were asking them for.
Basically, Ryan's family was grilling me. Why should we really love Ryan, but why should we give him money to make the movie if no one else wants to give him the money? Convince us that, this is a good move.
And if you know my family, it's funny because that makes it sound like they were very why the hell should we give this kid the money? And they weren't. That's just my family is very. If you sit down with my family over the course of an evening and you don't know them, this happens a lot with when some of my cousins bring girlfriends in, they get very offended because my family loves to argue. That's one of the things my family loves to do. And so this was their way of just kind of testing Rom and seeing if he could make a convincing argument for the film.
And they were grilling me. It was like a tough dinner for 2 hours. How to convince them, and I wasn't sure in the end of the dinner that they were convinced, but
I knew they were convinced at the beginning of the dinner. They were just
but I was like, okay. It was a very interesting dinner. It was very interesting.
I mean, we made this film for just under $500,000. We made
for $450.
About $450, yeah. I mean, how do you make a movie on 35 millimeter from a producer's perspective? Like, what's the
I don't
trick
think
to it?
people always, like, if you remember when we were talking about making the movie, even Steve at some point suggested we should go shoot the movie on HD, and I said I think it's a mistake. You know, you're really not saving, you know, any money by shooting a movie on HD if you know you're going to finish it on film, and if you were going to finish it on film, might as well shoot it on film because it will look better. And it's not a brain surgery to make a movie for $450. You just need to decide that you're going to do it. And of course, the main way is just you don't pay people a lot of money, unfortunately. The big difference, like we always discuss, between making a movie for $3 million and $450 is you just pay people their rates, which is significantly higher. And then you have a full union deals, and you pay the actors more money, and you pay the whole crew what they really need to get.
You don't even necessarily get more
You
resources.
don't get more
or time,
days. I
yeah.
don't think if we were shot a movie for $2 million, you would have anything extra that you didn't have. So I think a lot of it starts with it's a pyramid, and it starts with the director. And Rian knew exactly the 7 years that he didn't end up making his movie. He basically was so prepared, more than anyone else I've ever met. He just had it in his head, and people responded to him. And crew and the entire people who work on the movie, they just want to know that the leader knows what he's doing and that he respects them, and and he's a team player, and then they'll follow him. And clearly Rian was able to convey it from the beginning. And it's not so complicated, but you'll be surprised how rarely it does happen.
That's my cameo right here. That's my hand.
It's true. And the reshoots.
It's true. Let's talk about Sundance and kind of the process of selling the movie, the experience.
I think the best. I mean, one of the things we brought John Sloss to wrap the movie to Cinetic, but one of the things that was smart about how we approached Sundance, which I think.
And just as we made the movie totally independently, and then we took it to Sundance, and that's where Focus Features purchased it at Sundance, and then they're the ones who are distributing the film. So
basically, when we got the movie to Sundance, I think a lot of filmmakers, producers making the mistake of they want to create the buzz around the movie. So the way they create the buzz, they just want to promote the movie. They want to make sure that everyone knows about the movie. They want to make sure that there's articles written about the movie, that everyone in the industry will talk about it. And by doing that, you create high expectations where people coming to see the movie, and they have such a high expectation, and then they usually get disappointed. And we took the road of we really kept low profile. We didn't want anyone to talk about the movie, to know about the movie. I used to call every week to all the acquisition executive and say, really, this movie is really not for you. I remember calling Jason from Focus every week, and he would ask me about the movie and how he would want me try, and he would want to see some clips from the movie. I said, Jason, this movie is not for you. You're not going to get it. It's 2 hours long. This is not Cruel Intention. It's not that it's, people really need to think, and, you're going to need to spend some time, and it's really not the movie for you guys. You guys are never going to buy this movie. And we really created low expectations, but we knew that by doing it, it worked the opposite, because there was definitely buzz, but not too much. But people
we were starting at zero, so we had some place to go as opposed to expectations and that.
And the good thing is we also knew that there was another movie, the big movie that we're playing when we were playing was Matador, and we knew that, which was a big movie with Pierce Brosnan. It's like $15 million movie that we knew that all the big acquisition guys were going to go to that movie. And our approach, we said, let's the movie play, and hopefully people will really like it and discover it, and then the word will basically spread, which is exactly what happened. And I remember getting a phone call 5 minutes after the screening from Jason Resnick, who has been doing a great job, of course.
Works at Focus.
Works at Focus, his acquisition executive, and said, we want to screen the movie tonight. And I said, we can't. Why don't you come to the next screening in the morning, which is a press screening at 8:30 in the morning. And at 8:30 in the morning, which usually at press screenings, it's usually half full. We had everyone from Focus and from all the other companies. And I think the rest is history. But there was also a lot of other companies who were competing on the movie, and we're trying to spread the word that this movie is really not so commercial, or this movie is going to be very challenging in marketing to drive the price down and to get the other people outside the business. But luckily, the people at Focus really believed in Rian and in the movie, and they stuck, with us. And here we go.
And here we are.
And here we are in the scene where we shot a few times.
This was, and I talk about this in the deleted scenes. Watch that to see the story of this scene. Ladies and gentlemen, my favorite Israeli, Ron Bergman.
Oh man. Thank you guys. Hopefully I will be edited from this version.
Instead, to be around the house. Girl in the back of Tug's car in the pen and Tug.
Yeah.
Tug tried to shoot his way out when the police got there. They tied him to Dode, too. Same gun. And the girl.
The language in the film is one that I want to talk about briefly because it's definitely the big thing that people are either really into with the movie or that immediately turns them off from it. Which it was obviously a really conscious choice to have the language be this dense and have it be this much of this strange slang, which is kind of a weird mixture of everything from slang from the beginning of the century, from the Hamid up through the 50s, modern day stuff I made up. I mean, for me, it served a very defined narrative purpose, which was that, I thought because we're going to be seeing all these high school settings, it was very important to put a big blinking neon sign on the front of this movie that let people know coming into it, this wasn't supposed to be a realistic take on high school, to adjust your expectations, and we're in our own world here. I always said, Brick is to high school as Gotham City is to New York City, that we're working kind of in a very heightened world. So that was the main kind of narrative purpose of the language. It was also, though, it was so much fun to write and it's so much fun to perform, and I think for a certain type of moviegoer who's into that kind of thing, I know that a lot of my favorite films, like Miller's Crossing or Glengarry Glen Ross, or with the language in A Clockwork Orange, or there's a specific type of pleasure that I really get from films that have an aspect of them, whether it's language or anything else, that kind of hits the ground running and doesn't really look over its shoulder to see if you're catching up with it. And that's something that I really love in film, and I know a lot of people who do too. It's not something for everyone, but thank God for indie film. That's why we make smaller movies, so we don't have to appeal to everyone and their grandmother. But my grandmother liked the film. The other interesting thing was, I talked a little at the beginning about choosing the high school setting initially just to reset the detective thing. It definitely, in the writing of it and in the whole thing coming together, it took a deeper resonance in that for me, and it really, in a bizarre way, became very much about the experience of high school, and in an indirect way, and in my high school experience, definitely. Not that I was running around solving crime and punching out anybody in high school, but much more in the sense that, I don't know, when you see high school portrayed in movies and in TV, even in really good stuff, good movies and TV that I like, it's more often than not portrayed from a very adult perspective. And by that I mean, it's portrayed as a world that's inherently less serious than the adult world. And from an adult perspective, that's exactly what it is. It is silly who eats lunch with who, or who gives who what look in the halls, or who's going out with who's broken up with who. It's a silly kind of, silly world that's going to go away in a few years. It's a phase from an adult perspective. But when you are a teenager and when you are in that world, you don't have that perspective, and you're in a subjective way, it's the most serious time in your life. Your head is completely encased in that fishbowl, and it is life or death, these small things, because it's your entire, it's your whole field of vision is taken up by it. And that's, I think, why stories about high school, and why there is kind of this tradition of resetting, but whether it's Shakespeare or what have you, resetting classic stories kind of in high school, because it's a time, I think, that we all experience that has a very heightened feel to it. And so that was something that I was able to kind of, for me at least, tap into in terms of my own high school experience with Brick. One of the things that Joe and I kept saying is Brick isn't the way high school was, but maybe it's a little closer to the way high school felt, just where everything is almost mythic in its significance, and it's a very kind of the more impressionistic kind of images that I carried over from high school, like the backstage area, the dark backstage area, where what you imagined the rich girl's party was like that you couldn't get into, or what have you, whatever it was. Dashiell Hammett once worked as a private detective, and somebody asked him once whether Sam Spade was based on any specific private detective that he knew, And he said, no, it's not, but it's based on what every detective I knew wished that he was, thought that he was. And, that kind of applies to Brendan in a way. That's there's a reason that character of kind of the lone wolf has been in high school movies dating back to, going back to Rebel Without a Cause. There's a reason, there's a resonance to that. So, so for me, that ended up being kind of the heart of the movie. And that's something also that really came out, I mentioned before, once the actors came in and we started working and really talking through it. And, Joseph specifically, I mean, Joe really put his heart and soul into this project and became a creative partner on it. I mean, Steve and I were we had worked for years together on it, and we're really like a team. And then when Joe came on, he became kind of like the third part for me of that team. And Joe really was so much in the bones of this movie, and that was really essential to me, to get him involved on every single level, to talk to him about the casting with the other roles, to bring him into the editing room, to talk about the costumes, and not just his costume, but the whole thing. I wanted him involved and to feel ownership over this entire movie, because he had to be infused in the whole thing, and the whole thing is from, his character's perspective. So something that was important to me, but that was something that, as we talked about the movie, that's something that we kept coming back to, is the emotional core of it. Taking this world that is very much about artifice. If you look on the surface of this film and just take a quick glance at it, I think it can look like just a clever little exercise in style. It can look like just like a little gimmicky thing, but if you look at what that artifice is making you feel, and what the state of mind it's putting you in when you watch the movie, and the tension it's creating, and the heightened feeling of danger, and if you think about that in relation to high school, for me, that's kind of where the heart of this film is, and that's a big part of why I'm so proud of everybody's work on it. So proud of the whole team. I love you guys.
Call me a dirty word.
Yeah, and now we have a very special treat for the end credits, as Laura walks away into the background. I'm going to set this up a little bit. Ram Bergman, our producer, has the eating habits of a finicky 7-year-old. And so it's always entertaining to listen to him order a meal, because he has a very defined palate and a very defined selection of like what he will and will not eat. So I'd like to present now, for your listening pleasure, Noah Segan performing the role of Ram Bergman ordering a meal. Hello, Ms. Bergman. Welcome to Slagger's Steakhouse. And what can I get for you? I'd like to tell you about some of our specials. We have a filet mignon.
No, I would like a hamburger, well done, a dry, a tomato on the side, lettuce on the side, no mustard, no mayo, a thimbleful of sheep's blood.
What?
I'm sorry.
keep it going. It's all right. Keep it rolling. Keep going.
I'm cracking up too much. I'm sorry. What else? Please bring me a sliced tomato. Just sliced tomato. That's all I want, actually. And make it happen.
Peeled.
Sliced tomato. Peeled. I would like you to squeeze it softly.
I would like you to sprinkle the tomato with pepper, but just the dark spots of the pepper, and not the white flaky element of the pepper.
Do you have anything made from placenta?
That's disgusting. Oh, God. After a long, thoughtful commentary, I'm glad we could go out on, like... I've
been eating... What does he eat now? He eats hot dogs. Bring me hot dogs. That's it. I just want hot dogs.
What you have to understand is there's no rhyme or reason to Ram's food logic.
Please bring me steak fries, cut the tips off, squeeze the middle out, and form it into the shape of such as a fish, possibly a large invertebrate.
And he'll hit you with stuff out of left field. Like, you'll think you got him figured out. You say, oh, he doesn't like spicy stuff. And then he's like, can you bring me a small canister, half salsa, half vinegar?
Please bring me chorizo, dry, and
I would like it on a bun, but please do not cook the bun. Just a raw dough of the bun.
I would like a egg white in a. Are you familiar with the measurement, the dram? Please bring me a dram of egg whites.
3 cubits of raw bouillon.
And a hogshead of maize. I'm on an all maize diet. Thank you very much.
You know, I buy him, I won't say the name of it, I buy him a certain fast food restaurant that rhymes with Click Bonald's gift certificates. Seriously, I buy him that like for his birthday because he can eat McDonald's. That's like his safety net is he eats McDonald's. But you take him to any sort of restaurant and it's...
Please bring me 3 dozen chicken McNuggets.
Dry.
Dry.
Wow, this is not amusing to anyone but us.
This is
no one's listening
make
anymore.
It make it happen.
Okay,
I would like to thank
I
I would like to thank Tal Bergman.
Go do your thing. Tal was awesome. Tal's Brahms' brother.
Go
he
do
let
your
us,
thing.
He,
Go do your thing.
Tal was the one who let us record the Moon and I thing. So
Go do your thing. When he gets very nervous, the credits are running out.
The number of errors per minute.
Make it happen. Make it happen. Do it. No, it's okay. It's okay. Civil liability, criminal prosecution.
All right, let's get Ramen here to defend himself in the last moment.
Well, you guys couldn't get me more wrong, man. No fish. You know, McDonald's, maybe. You know, just plain dry dough, but no fish and no hot dog, man.
You consciously avoided
Yeah. You're good.
You're working for scale minus 10.
You have a chance, Noah.
Scale minus 10.
You have a future. You know, this guy's gonna be a star one day.